interested in.
My name's Wendy, and I'm new to driving.
I put together a couple little display boards, and I want to start off in here talking about the harnesses and looking at the different types of harness, etc., and talk about why we would use one versus the other, etc. And we've got 3 wagons or 3 vehicles set out. An overcheck attached from his bit to his saddle, which goes around here. So his head can't reach the ground. Now, on some horses, on the big hitch horses at Draft Horse Classic, you'll see these things so short that their heads are like way up here, and you know, they can't even put their head at a comfortable position. Lex's is not that short. He can relax his head, but he can't put it down to the ground. Why would you not want your horse to put their head down to the ground when you're driving?
You know.
Yeah. The lower the head, the higher the butt. Right? So Lex is learning, and he does not like it when I have to use the whip and encourage him. And so he will give a little hop, and it's just a little tiny hop because his head doesn't go down. Right? If his head went way down, he can get those feet up pretty high. So that's one reason. What else?
Grass. Grazing.
Grazing. If they can't get their head to the ground, they're not trying to stop and eat every 2 seconds. Your traces come back, hook onto your vehicle. This particular harness has, this is where your shaft of your vehicle goes through, right? And then it's got this strap that goes underneath that you wrap around and buckle. So it holds the shaft in place. You wrap in front of this, you wrap it back, and then you buckle it on both sides, which is different than that one back there. Not all people drive, not all harnesses drive with a crooper, but I like the crooper because it helps keep your harness in place, right?
A lot of team harnesses don't have the crooper, but you can add it as an option.
His britchin still slid over to the side, but it can't fall off.
Yeah.
Because this is around his tail, keeping it, you know, it can only go so far, right?
Compared to the Minnie's bit.
Laura had that on Lulu down the
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And then the piece that holds this down is buckled, is just buckled on both sides. So there's no wrapping. So you can slide the shafts in, you can slide the shafts out. She's got her line set up on here so we can see, you know, how with a single horse, you want to go to the right, pull to the right, want to go to the left, pull to the left. All is good, right? Move on to the team harness and the collar harness. Now, it's not that you can't have a breast harness for team, Laura has those, or you can have a collar harness for a single horse. But just so happens today we have set up a team harness with collars and singles with breast pulls. So those are the bridles that go with this. One of the things I want you to note here is the lines. When I pick up the lines, look at the bridle. When I pull on the right line, I'm pulling the right side of both horses.
Oh yeah.
When I pull on the left side, I'm pulling the left side of both horses because it crosses in the middle. And it's very important when you put these on, and you'll only do it once if you do it wrong, that you put the solid straight line, oops, which did I, oh yeah I did, okay, got it right here, to the outside. And the broke off split line goes to the inside, because we can adjust the length of this one. So, like with my big Belgian team, I had Bill took a lot of control, and the other one took very little control. So I had Bob's center line set pretty loose, so I could pull on Bill and just barely bump Bob. But I had Bill's center line set pretty tight, so I could bump Bob and go, hey, Bill, focus, right? So you have to adjust your lines how you need to have them set up so that you can work with that particular team on that particular day, because it changes. You know, you get it set and you go, okay, they're doing great and everything's wonderful, and then you go out to do a different job, a different environment, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, no, we got to do some more adjusting today, you know. collars, that's what's attached to your traces, right? Is your metal hames, which is buckled to your collar. So when the horse is pulling with a collar, they're using their whole neck and shoulders pushing into that collar. When they've got a breast pull harness on, it's just this.
So what would make you choose one over the other?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you. What do you think?
Laura knows.
Laura says she knows, so let's let her answer that.
I think it has to do with the weight. If you are gonna pull something that's really heavy, you wanna distribute that weight around the neck of the horse as opposed to in this just one area. So if they're pulling like log skidding and all that kind of stuff, it's a collar harness or a work harness. It's for pulling something that's heavy. Now, sometimes they're just pretty. But I will tell you, they're more of a pain in the butt to put on than the regular rubbers.
Yeah, because this whole harness goes on in one piece from here, from the hames, all the way back to here. Goes onto the horse. Which, if you got little short half-wingers like Laura, it's not bad. Phew, they're on there, you know. But when you've got 19-hand percherons, it's kind of a pain in the neck. The breast collar harnesses, you can put on in pieces, one piece at a time. The little loops to put your shafts through on here. You have your little loop holders.
Yes, I did. They're here.
But you can adjust your harness.
So you can add loops onto the sides here.
So you can get things that buckle on.
So if you want to just say you're going to just drive one of your horses and not a team, you put the loops on the sides there, and you can use your team harness as a single harness. They have clip-on croopers, so you can clip on these things that will turn this harness into one. Yes, I do drive my team in two different bits. One is a softer mouth than the other.
Honey has a full-on nose band that buckles, if you get it unstuck, around her nose, right? So this goes around her nose, a bit gets in her mouth, and then this goes around her nose and buckles to which helps keep the horse's mouth closed. Has the nose band over the top, but there's nothing that buckles around his face. It's just open. It's an open bridle. And so he doesn't have anything to keep him from gaping his mouth open if it were, again, the difference in bits. So right now, Lex has his driving bit on, and it's in the I like you and I'll be nice mode. Okay? I say that because notice that one side's kind of jagged. If I flip this bit over, which I can, it'll work both directions, then this is against the bars of his jaw. Most of the time, Lex has started off with the driving lines on this top ring, which just makes this a straight bar bit. Right? There's no leverage. This chin strap does nothing. It just, looks cute and whatever. As he started to become a little bit more independent, and I wanted him to listen a little better, I dropped him down to the first hole. So now I've got a little bit of leverage and a little bit of focus. Pay attention. If I needed to, I could drop him down one more hole and I'd have even more. If I needed to, I could turn the bit over and I have hey, I'm talking to you, dude. But yeah, so the blinders help, but they can also cause them to react more at times because they can't see. Okay, moving on to wagons. I've got a little chart here that talks about two-wheel vehicles versus a four-wheel vehicle and some of the things to consider if you're going to go buy or look at buying a two-wheel vehicle. So is it wooden wheels or rubber tires? What kind of wheels do you have on it? Makes a huge difference.
Which is best?
Huh?
Which is best?
It depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, if you're going booty crashing, you probably want those rubber tires.
So that's what it looks like if you've got a bearing wheel. And pretty much all of your rubber tired vehicles are gonna be bearing wheels. But when you get into wood wheels, older vehicles don't have bearings. They have leather bushing, which means there's a couple of coils of leather stuffed in there with some grease on it. And that's what keeps everything spinning. If you've got leather bushings, and with this you cut off how much you need, and how much you need is how much slop you have in there. So how much leather you need to be put in so that it's not sloppy. If you have these in there, you should be taking them off and re-greasing them about every 3 months.
Oh, wow.
If you're driving
a lot.
the vehicle.
And grease.
Yeah.
So grease and,
Okay. Every 3 months kind of thing. The height of the shafts. So if you look at these two vehicles, notice that the shaft on this one is about this high, and the shaft on this one is this high. Much different, you know, so if we tried to put this vehicle on poor little Gracie, we kind of lose the horse between the shafts. This would fit her beautifully, right? Well, we're standing here at this vehicle and talking about wheels. I pointed out to Laura that these wheels are bowed the wrong direction. The dish, see how they kind of dishes out? The dish really should be going in. And truthfully, if you put a straight edge from the top of your wheel to the bottom of your wheel, you want maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch from the hub area of the wood to that straight bar, right? So, so this one, other than the fact that it's got a big chunk where it's not touching, this one's dished really nicely. Okay, jack it up a little bit so you can spin the wheel and make sure it's rolling straight. If it's wobble, 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 yeah, maybe that's gonna need some work, right? And work is not cheap. Okay, Laura's got this one. Notice we've got a little whoopsie in the middle. She said, oh, it's got a chunk out of it. I said, no, it doesn't have a chunk out of it. What happened is when they cut the rubber for this wheel and put it on, it's really cool because we can see how it works, but when they put it on there, they didn't cut the rubber long enough. It probably was completely closed when they first put it together, but then after it got rolled for a while, it spread and separated. And really the only way you can fix that is take it off and put new rubbers on.
so that's why this wheel's off. It's going to the shop.
I have a show cart that's not quite as hard to get into because it's not quite as tall, but again, really not easy to get into. I have my Meadowbrook, which you flip the seat up and it's got a step in the back and you just, so this one, get in the seat. Well, maybe you don't even, this lifts up, you step here, you step there, you're in the car. Much easier than climbing in over the side of the car. The capacity. How many people can you haul? Is that what do you want to do with it? Typically when we go to a four-wheel vehicle, we're thinking about more than just us, right? We want to be able to take more people with us. So how many more people? This is a fifth wheel. What does that mean? That means that the little piece down underneath that this is all attached to swivels.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Right. We did that in my car
Huh. That'll make
And
it
as long
easier
as
to
you got a
key
good
over.
team, you're not in trouble right here. If,
They can pull out of it at that angle?
oh yeah.
You see the
That great-
Budweisers?
That great big 12-seater wagon that I had, I took it to that wheel over there. It just goes. That far wheel. See? Isn't that cool?
Where'd you get it from?
Okay, and now we can straighten the horses out, and we can go the completely opposite direction.
That's why the G over and haw over.
It's a fifth wheel and it's a cut under. So you notice this wheel went under, or the other wheel, went under the vehicle, right? So you can turn it and spin it on the dime. If I have a well-trained horse, I should be able to do a 180 without ever moving this wheel. Lex is getting close. So Laura's going to turn it around. This one is what we call a limited turn vehicle. It does not have a fifth wheel, and it does not have a cut under. Most people like their vehicle is roller wheels right here on the side. Because when you turn too tight and you start to jackknife onto it, it keeps it from digging holes into the side of your wagon for a minute. But it will break your wagon. You can break yourself really quickly. So, whoop, that's as far as you can turn. So you want to know. So you guys get to do this.
And G over. G, G.
Yeehaw!
I'm watching that roller there.
That turns like my Ford truck. So she had to straighten out a little bit to avoid hitting the tree. Then she's going to hope she can turn tight enough to not hit the fence.
And the wheel rub. Up is on the wheel rub.
Oh, we're stuck. Oh, better get that whip out.
Gotta get that tire out of that.
Nice to us.
Pole, and it's a really nice one because it stays up in the air. But this vehicle could have shafts put on it for a single horse also.
Yesterday, what I did was I measured the pole that I normally use, got the length of it, undid this screw, and pulled this out to get to the length that my team needs. So if I have a longer team or a shorter team, this pole can be adjusted.
So that one has dual brakes. It's got a brake for the front wheels and a brake for the back wheels. This has a brake. It's for the back wheel. This is your brake.
Oh, wow.
It's a piece of rubber that pushes against the piece of rubber. Okay. Sometimes it's a piece of rubber that pushes against a piece of metal, depending on the vehicle. I don't care what you're driving. If you have a runaway, those brakes are not going to stop that, even if a single horse. If you're stopped on a downhill, keep the vehicle from pushing on your horse, or if you're on an uphill, keep it from pulling on the horse while you're stopped. That's really what your brakes are for. Or if you're doing the fancy combined driving stuff and you're zooming around and you got people back there leaning, you can use the brakes to kind of help you spin and skid the vehicle a little bit. But they're not like brakes on the car. To help slow it down.
On the horse.
Yeah. If you're nice. If you're nice to your horses, you can do that. If I'm going downhill with a single horse or a team, and I have a brake on my vehicle, I'll put it on lightly just to help hold the vehicle back a little bit. Not to stop it, but just to slow it down so it's not pushing on them quite so much. Unless they're being brats, in which case I go deal with it. I'm not the nicest person in the world sometimes to my, I'm very good to my horses. I take great care unless they're being idiots. They were not the beautifully matched team, but they worked well together. But they rarely were pulling evenly. So what does that mean? God, I wish I had my camera right there.
I mean, it's like this plastic picture.
Okay, so this is interesting, Laura. Huh. Well, this one's going to help make your horses pull evenly together because they're stiff. There's not a pull in
Oh, well,
there.
we can loosen them up some.
No, I mean this, like the pole has to move in order.
Oh.
So ideally, a lot of times your team pole has a bar that swivels right here, right? So you want to keep that bar straight. If it's angled like this, that means one horse is doing all the other work and the other one's just walking along looking cute.
Oh, yeah. It's really easy to see on my
Yeah.
one at dogs. It's really
Yeah,
easy to see.
yeah.
We'll see, because
We'll see.
my horses don't normally pull evenly. Sue is a hard worker. She's an overachiever. And Honey is laid back.
2-wheel, 4-wheel, 5th wheel, limited turn.
What is this?
Sure.
Right now, it's in park, but not in park in either way it rolls. So
Okay.
I have to read about it, but it's a parking.
So it
thing.
needs hooked up.
If we're transporting our vehicle back and forth to different places, the vibration on the trailer loosens the nuts, so you need to go through every couple months and tighten bolts.
Not too short for that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be using this.
But this actually works too.
Oh, so it's got that
Oh, so you can
anti-slip.
stand on it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is how I got in my vehicles all the time. Although there were times when I'd like turn the horse and I'd step on the front bar and get up in there and whatnot. Yeah, so you know, different ways to climb in and out.
Now these are disc brakes.
Yeah.
Which are high tech.
New.
Because I've had them in bicycles. That's where I know them from. But so is this new to wagons and carts?
Well, not new, but
No. World Class Carriages is their website. This is a trail wagon. This is a trail wagon.
Oh, and look at those leaf springs. I know, look at those. Aren't those awesome?
We'll have to ride along and have us hold wine glasses.
Yeah. That's a very secure
I went
seat.
out ahead of time because you have to do eliminations early